Welcome to The Favorites, the podcast, part of the Action Network and proudly presented by bet365. I am Chad Millman, Chief Content Officer of the Action Network. We are live on AMP. We are live on YouTube. Put your questions in either chat. Producer Matt Mitchell is standing by to give them to me and to my co-host, my BFF, my compadre, my companion, professional bettor, Simon Hunter. Hello, Simon.
Aloha, Chad. What a crazy, crazy start to the month of June we've had.
Tell me why. Tell me
Other than the
why.
we had a golf merger in one on the same day as we have a gambling scandal. The same day we have an upset in the NBA. It's all happening at the same exact time, Chad.
Sports takes no breaks. You're, of course, referring to the PGA Tour and Live Golf and the European Tour, essentially, merging. Freaking insane. I don't even understand how it's all going to work. At one point, we're going to get Jason Sobel on here. We're going to talk about the ramifications. Does this now mean Rory McIlroy is going to be nice to Bryson DeChambeau? Does Rory McIlroy now play the Trump courses that are on the Live Tour? Does anybody even care about the Live Tour enough to watch it on TV now that it'll be part of the PGA Tour? I don't know what any of this means. Does Phil Mickelson have to give back $250 million? I don't know. We're gonna untangle it all. You did mention two very important things. Number one, we've got the NBA finals going on. They are tied 1-1. We love the NBA. We've had great NBA coverage. That will continue later on the show. Dragonfly Jones and Mike Gardabasio from the Jenkins and Jones podcast crew, friends of ours from the Volume Podcast Network. They're going to come on. We're going to talk NBA. Before we get to that, we're going to have to talk about this Colts betting scandal that came up yesterday, and the guy who broke it from Sports Handle, part of the Better Collective universe. We're all part of the same family here in Better Collective. Matt Rybeltowski, who nailed the story, had been working his sources for a few months. He's going to come on and explain to us what it means. But first, The Favorites is proudly presented by bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer. Bet $1 on any game and get $200 in bonus bets. Must be 21 or older. Offer is available in Colorado, Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. And as I will remind you, every episode, let's talk about Game Time, the fastest growing ticketing app in the United States. I love Game Time. Honestly, I use it all the time. If you're looking to get out to a pro or college game this week or even a concert, Game Time has amazing last-minute deals on tickets to all of these. I'm opening the Game Time app right now from my house here in Connecticut. What do you know? I can go see the New York Yankees fighting their way to the top of the Major League Baseball rankings. Everybody loves the Yankees. Not really, but you can still go see them for a very cheap price. Also, you can go see the super team that is the New York Liberty. You can get in for $23 this week, no matter where you live. Download the Game Time app, get out, have some fun this week. You deserve it, and you can redeem code FAVORITES for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, just download the app and enter code FAVORITES for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Simon, you said it. I mentioned it. Let's bring in Matt Rybeltowski, senior reporter at Sports Handle. Matt, yesterday you broke a very big story, got picked up all over the country. NBC picked it up, ESPN picked it up. It was on local radio everywhere. It's becoming a little bit of a recurring theme in this offseason is NFL players getting busted for betting on sports. This one took on a little bit of a different angle. Explain what you learned and what you broke.
Yeah, you nailed it, Chad, where you mentioned that there's this convergence now of all these betting scandals within the industry, and it just hasn't happened with the NFL. There's been a few universities that have been ensnared. There was a MLS match fixing scandal involving an alleged yellow card incident earlier in the spring. The reason I mention them is because the source we use is very trusted. We've used them in the past. Um, we've had him as a source for a few years now, and he had firsthand knowledge of what occurred here with the Colts incident. And this is the fourth one now that's involved NFL players since the PASPA ruling, and it's it definitely doesn't involve the most prominent player, right? Calvin Ridley is by far the most prominent player that's been nailed for gambling, and it might not be the most egregious either. If you look back at the first one in 2019 that involved Josh Saw, there were uncorroborated reports that he wagered against the Cardinals on a second half bet in a Cardinals Bucks game. So even if it's proven that Isaiah Rodgers bet on the Colts, I wouldn't say it's the most egregious one, but I would say in terms of sheer volume, our source informed us that the player placed hundreds of bets, if not more, and uh, ESPN corroborated that somewhat, where according to ESPN's reporting, he placed at least 100 wagers. I'd say, in terms of the sheer volume, this is the most rampant violation so far.
Yeah, yeah. ESPN broke yesterday after we had reported that the investigation was happening, that it was Colts player Isaiah Rodgers, Simon, and that he had potentially, we had broken that some of the hundreds of bets he made included bets on his own team. Simon, you're a professional bettor. You've been a professional bettor for a long time. There are two sides to two ways to look at what's happening right now. Everyone says, oh my God, sports betting is legal. And all of a sudden, there is a rush of illicit activity on the parts of players and rules violations with regard to betting. Woe is me, that's terrible. Or sunlight is the best disinfectant, and these things were probably happening before, only now because it is so regulated, we are learning about this, and it actually becomes more of a deterrent. As a professional bettor, what is your purview on the attention being paid to rules violations from players?
I mean, there's a lot of ways to go with this. I would say the biggest thing is it's just about being dumb. If you're dumb, you will get caught. If you're not, if you're smart, it's really easy never to get caught. I mean, it'd be a shocking amount to you, Chad, how many guys that I run for, right, take bets for that are professional athletes. So people can talk analogy and like, oh my God, how are guys betting on their own football teams, betting against football teams? How are NHL players betting on different sports? It's across the map. Like you think it's just a one isolated thing. It's people would be shocked to know how many professional athletes do bet, but they're not idiots, right? Either they're betting through friends or families or whoever's phones. They're not using their own devices because that's how you get caught. Basically, they're catching these guys because they're getting pinged in their own buildings or wherever, right? These sports books work with these teams. If they ping a guy, right? If someone makes a bet in the Colts stadium or the Colts practice facility, they'll just send that info to the NFL team. Now, who knows how he did it? Maybe he was using his own phone. Maybe he was using his girlfriend's phone. Who knows? But he got caught. So I would say this isn't a one-stop thing. There's going to be a lot more stories coming out of this over the next couple of years. I mean, we talk all the time. Like we haven't had a major scandal yet, but Italy, one of the biggest scandals ever was this whole thing with Italy in the Juventus, I believe it was paying off referees. That was a big deal. To me, that's the big stuff where, if there's big breaking stuff, it's going to be a big name player, right, Chad? So say a starting quarterback in the NFL gets caught betting against his team or betting on a team, to me, that would be earth shattering. If it's a backup running back, yeah, it's a big deal, but it's, me and you aren't losing our heads over it. So to me, that's the fear. As someone that's in this industry now, it's like, I just want it to be pure. I like betting on sports, not worrying about the referees, not worrying about what the players are doing. That's a nice thing to know. If that changes, that would be massive in our industry. So to me, being behind the curtains, it's like I know a ton of athletes that bet on sports, they bet on their own teams, they bet on themselves, their own player props, all of that. But I don't think they're ever going to get caught. I think a lot of these guys are really smart. They're really well educated, especially where a lot of these teams have a guy come in. They'll tell them the exact rules on the betting, right? They'll tell them exactly what to do and what not to do. Right. If you play football, you can bet on other sports. You just can't bet on the NFL. There's different rules like that. So to me, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, Chad. Like we're just going to keep every year. We'll see one of these scandals come out just because people are dumb. Like it's just you're really dumb if you're going to use your own cell phone, go on these sports books, give your own name and your own social security number. It's just like, come on, it really is mind blowing. So when this story broke, I was waiting to hear what the player's name was. When the name came out, I was like, all right, it's pretty crazy, but nothing that's going to shut down the NFL league, right? It's just going to be business as usual. This guy will probably be kicked out of the league. No one's going to pick him up. That's just the way it is. He's not like Calvin Ridley, which is a top 20, top 25 wide receiver. Like that guy's going to get another job. I don't know if he's going to get another job after this one, Chad.
By the way, I don't know why, but in the 3 months you've been in Hawaii, your Philadelphia accent has gotten stronger. I don't know how that's happened.
I think it's because I pulled an all-nighter. I've just been up all night, Chad. I literally have not gone to sleep. It is 7:30 in the morning in Hawaii, so I literally pulled an all-nighter so I wouldn't miss this show.
I feel like I'm listening to that Kate Winslet show, like Murder Dirter. All right, so Matt, there are, and Isaiah Rogers has since come out with a statement apologizing, owning the mistakes, blah, 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 blah. With you had something that was really interesting in your story. This concept of prohibited lists. And I want you to address this before we get to the Jenkins and Jones guys and talk NBA. Explain what prohibited lists are and what leagues can do with them.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, and I have to give a shout out to my colleague Jill Dorson because in May she had a terrific feature on this, and she was able to ascertain that in Iowa, because she was doing some reporting on the colleges there, that the only pro league that provides those prohibited player lists is the NBA. No, none of the others do, and the prohibited bettor list that could be another tool for investigators here, where if a sports book or a regulator has this massive list of 1,200 NFL players, active NFL players, and all their accompanying information is in front of them, social security numbers, addresses, phone numbers, the like, they're they would be able to marry that list with other forms of the investigation. The location of the bettor. Did he make the bet inside a practice facility? Did he make it on a team plane? Did he make it in the hotel while the Colts were in Denver, or the team bus, or something like that? But uh, on the other hand, there's still loopholes, right? Simon did an awesome job before of articulating all the loopholes that are out there. All it takes is for a player's girlfriend to place the bet. It seems like if that happens, that's an easy way to trace it, right? And according to our source, this account was opened up by an acquaintance or a girlfriend or whoever. He didn't give us the exact person, but it was someone who was an associate of the player. But if there's 6 degrees of separation there, if it's a player's friends, gardeners, cousin's nephew, best friend, something like that, then it's harder to trace. So taking that same scenario there, if the investigators don't have the PII of the player, it's going to be really hard to detect if someone like this is wagering.
All right, Matt, listen. Great work on the story. Great work on breaking it. I agree with Simon. There's going to be more of them. So I would suggest go fucking find them and break more of them. Matt Rybeltowski, Sports Handle, part of the Better Collective universe. We're super proud of you. Excellent work. Simon, we're transitioning to our friends from the Jenkins and Jones crew. Of course, we're going to do it without the Jenkins portion of the Jenkins and Jones crew because John is on vacation. So we're getting Tyler, we're getting Mike Gardabasio. I don't know if you remember, but 2 years ago, I was thinking about this as I was coming up the stairs from enjoying my very healthy lunch and my sparkling water with an orange slice. That the last time we had these guys on was a couple of years ago when we were doing off-season trivia, and they were fucking hilarious. And I was trying to remember, like, there was one thing that made me laugh so hard. And then in our rundown here, Matt Mitchell, because he's an incredible producer, reminded us of what we loved so much. And in honor of Father's Day, which is coming up soon, here is a special clip from 2 years ago. Mike Gardabasio, speaking about his dad, the last time this crew joined the show. Mike, listen, you really gave it to your dad the last time we were on the show.
Yeah. I stand by that.
Fair enough.
He's dead, so nothing has changed in the last 2 years. So,
well, I guess in some ways, I'm glad you haven't reconciled because it just leads to more discomfort when we're talking about it. But hopefully one day. All right, you guys are opinionated guys on everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to get from you, Tyler, do you have thoughts on the betting scandals that are proliferating in professional sports?
Yeah. We're in uncharted territory with all this gambling shit. And of course, the leagues are going to be real heavy-handed with everything because they have to protect the integrity of the game. They have to let the viewers know that there will not be any, meddling between, the string pullers that control, the Vegas money or whatever in these players. But I just don't understand how the players are getting caught here. Like, I know that there are more than these players who are caught who are gambling, but I just cannot believe that there are professional athletes signing up for gambling sites, putting in their full legal names and expecting nothing is going to happen to them. Like, get your girlfriend or your wife or something to set up an account for you in her name or something and do your action there. But I don't get it, man. I just do not get how players are getting caught here. That's my biggest takeaway.
Mike, what's your take?
Just as a little context, I'm not a gambling guy, but grew up in the sports world in Long Beach. And so I have friends from teenagers in high school who are athletes who love doing parlays on their apps that they use a VPN to get around the age restrictions, right? Up to the guys in the Century Club that I'm in here in Long Beach. They're 60, 70 years old who are going to the bookie at Legends, the original sports bar in Long Beach back in the 70s and 60s, right? I think that there's an upside and a downside, obviously, to gambling becoming more of a mainstream thing. But to me, it's fun. And I think that it is kind of challenging to say to these athletes, hey, we're building up this gambling infrastructure around everything. Congress is still allowed to trade stocks based on things that they know are happening, by the way, to bet in the real world marketplace. But you can't put a parlay on, games that are happening on a Monday night when you're sitting at home with your friends, or we're going to ring you up and knock you out. And I completely agree with Simon and Tyler. Like, it's not the hardest thing in the world to not get caught doing this. But I also think it's like at some point, the cover is off the furniture here. The NFL's they're not pretending that there's any other reason why they have to get injury reports in, right? It's like it's now acknowledged that this is part of the infrastructure of sports. And so I do think it would behoove them, just from a endorsement and making it more mainstream perspective, it would behoove them to come up with all the money that's being generated out of this, an ombudsman or something for each team that is like, hey, you're going to put your bets in through us so that we know you're not betting on your team or whatever. But find a way to remove this, because otherwise it will be once a month until eternity. And someone, gets tripped up and rung up for doing this stuff. That's my take. I think they need to find a way to bring this into the light. Like you said, sunlight's the best disinfectant. And the more you're acknowledging, which everyone in the leagues knows what Simon said, that all these guys are doing it, then at some point you need to be smart and not have it be, under the table where you're going to have everything blown up every now and then like this. That's my take on it.
I love that idea. Go ahead.
Another point I was going to make is that the reason gambling is a multi-billion-dollar industry is because every single gambler thinks they're smarter than the line setters, right? So I can imagine how professional athletes who are seeing lines set on their league, I can imagine how, that hubris just takes them over. Like I can imagine NFL players saying, oh, the Panthers are only +7 versus Kansas City. Are you kidding me? Like let me put 10 racks on that. I can totally understand that, right? But like I said, these guys just have to move smarter here, man.
I love your idea about an ombudsman who is sort of the funnel, right? So let's say that's actually brilliant. You get a group of people who are the filters for these guys making their bets. They're basically proxies, runners, whatever. You put them in each state, align them with each team. That's a great idea.
The money exists to do that, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, you guys are NBA-ophiles. You know it as well as anybody. Simon,
Basketball
you want to kick us off here?
Yeah, here we are, boys. 2 games into the finals. What are you guys' takeaways so far? Are we believing the Miami hype, or was that just a bad night for Denver and somehow Miami keeps shooting 50% from 3? Like, what are your guys' takeaways as we're 2 games in? We'll start with you, Mike.
Well, so I'm a little bit of a numbers person. I have a toe dipped into the analytics pool, right? And the question has always been, if we play enough sports, statistically, there eventually has to be someone or something that never reverts to the mean, right?
Yeah.
There has to be some outlier that's like, oh, wow, he was hitting 470 to start the season. And then, wow, he never reverted to the mean. He just hit 470 all the way through. The Heat sort of feel like that to me. Like maybe they just never stop shooting 50% from 3. I think I went into this series. I said Nuggets in 5. Tyler, I think you were Nuggets in 5 as well. Like, we were all on the Nuggets. I still think that's 6. Nuggets in 6. So, I mean, I still think that that's what happens, but they gave me enough in game 2 to just be excited about the statistical improbability of like, what if they're just hot for another 2 weeks and we look back on this forever like, I don't know, an 8 seed could just shoot 50% for 2 months.
Yeah. My takeaway with, from the Heat is kind of the same thing Mike said, is that if they've been doing this for a whole postseason, it's not just them having a hot hand, right? Like, you can't say that they're, just playing with house money now. This is who they are. I mean, they were a game 7 away from going to the finals last year, right? And I think a lot of us were kind of down on them this season because, they stunk it up regular season. We didn't see that they were a legit contender, but they've proven to be a legit contender this postseason.
I guess what's interesting here, and by the way, the Nuggets right now on Bet365 are -280 favorites to win the finals. Miami is +230. What's really interesting, and everybody right now in NBA circles is talking about this lack of regression to the mean for the Heat. And because everybody in the NBA is such a fucking geek, like they are so wrapped into the numbers, right? But that regression, everyone always assumes regression happens on a game-to-game basis. But the truth is the regression usually happens over a much bigger data set.
That's
and
right.
so it's very possible the Heat have zero regression in the rest of these finals. It's very possible the Heat continue to be a superior three-point shooting team for the rest of these finals. And it's also very possible that Michael Porter Jr. never finds his shot during the finals. That makes it an entirely different series. And look, I love the Nuggets. My biggest bet is Nuggets -1.5 in the series. So at least in 6 or at most in 6. And, but Tyler, I don't know, man, like this Heat team, they could be the exception to every rule.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, beat down anyone who says that they can see the Heat winning this. I just don't. I think that, we discussed this on the podcast, and this is gonna sound like the corniest Hoosier ass shit that I've ever said about basketball. But I think the biggest takeaway from this postseason is we are getting the two teams that played the most like a unit in this postseason, right? Like, the Nuggets and the Heat, two machines, just well-oiled, moving effortlessly. But I do think that, when it comes down to and the reason why, I was picking the Heat over these other squads in the East, I was like, because, execution, discipline, they're going to execute better than the Celtics. They weren't a more talented team than the Celtics, but they executed better, and that's why they sent them home. I think that now, they're going up against a team that executes just as well, and they've got better players. So I think that this is where that Heat, Disney story stops here.
Mike, you're the one who, listen, you brought up the R word. What's your take on my take?
No, I agree with you. Like, I think that the analytics movement in sports is sort of tricky because it's not actually like when you consider analytics in any other set, you're not looking at games as being this incredibly important thing, right? You're not looking at, this next time we flip the coin is for the championship or something, And so you're right. Like the regressions do tend to happen in more of like a longer wave pattern. And everyone is just sort of going, this is the game where they'll shoot 10% from 3. And that really isn't how it works. So like I said, I'm not going to hop off my Nuggets prediction yet. But after watching game 2, I did just start thinking like, well, maybe this is it. I don't know. I could very well see that happening.
Simon, I know you want to jump in because I thought Tyler's comment about these are, and I don't think it's corny to call it a Hoosier comment, but
it's corny on our podcast, Chad. It's corny on our podcast.
Exactly. But these two teams just playing like, unit basketball. But if, let's say there is this current scenario where the Heat continue to outperform, as a bettor, what is your strategy? Do you adjust for what you think might be the Heat being on a roll, or do you play to form, which is the expectation things will regress quickly?
I mean, that's tough. I would say, just looking at this Denver team, I don't think they played well in 2 straight games. And that could either be because Spoelstra's done so well coaching and scheming up against them, or they're just a team that didn't play basketball for 9 days in a high-level competition. And Michael Porter just has not found his shot, right? He's had back-to-back games where he's been under his total of 2.5 threes. Like, that's a big deal for a Denver team that defenses suck in when Joker has the ball. Like when he has the ball in the middle, teams like to come in on him, right? They like get. We've seen Spoelstra make an adjustment though. He goes, you know what? We're not going to suck in. We'll let him take those shots rather than him dishing the ball at those 3-point guys. So, I mean, we talked about before heading into this, Chad. The Heat had a big advantage on the coaching side of the ball. Now, again, we could talk ad nauseum how lucky they got in that game, but I would say as bettors, a lot of pros, they've just been riding this Heat run. I mean, we've never seen a run like this in NBA, right? We've never seen a team be constantly 8-point, 9-point underdogs and then winning on 250 on the money line, plus 230 on the money line. So I would say the pros that have been on the Heat, they've been riding it. And the pros that have been against them, they lost a ton of money on that Milwaukee series, and they just haven't done shit since. They just have not gone against them. Even when it was the Knicks, they didn't touch it. when it came up to them against Boston, they were like, okay, we'll take them on the spread, but they really weren't touching the series price or the money line. I think a lot of these guys are trying to flip, Chad. So I would say most pros I talked to coming into this series were all in on, the Nuggets winning in 6, the Nuggets winning in 5. I've seen them, a lot of the tones changing now where it's like, okay, Heat in 7 is not a terrible bet. Like if this game does go 7, I think we all can agree here. I mean, I want to hear these guys' opinions. Wouldn't you take the Heat in game 7? I mean, this is a team that's been tested. The Nuggets, they haven't been tested. Like they've not been tested like this Heat team. So we'll start with you, Tyler. Like, what do you think? If this goes 7, you got the Heat in 7. If this does go to a game 7?
Oh yeah, I do have the Nuggets at 6, but if it goes to game 7, yeah, I'm riding with the Heat. They've shown that when game 7 rolls around, they're the team with the bigger nuts. There was a quote from Bam in the post game where a reporter asked him, it's just been so many ups and downs this postseason, and everyone's down to y'all. Has it been stressful at all? He's like, bro, this shit is fun. Like, and usually, a team that's that loose, like in a game 7, that's the team that you want to ride with. So if it does go to game 7, I will change my pick. But like I said, I do have Nuggets at 6.
Yeah, we could talk analytics, but we also talk about nut size and buttholes on the show, right? And like how big are your nuts and how tight is your butthole? I can see if you're asking me who's got the tighter buttholes in game 7, I would for sure say the Nuggets, even being at home, even knowing that they've got sort of an unanswerable weapon in Jokic. I would for sure be on the Heat in a game 7 for all the reasons Tyler just outlined. I mean, I just, it's sort of a double-edged sword, like running through the playoffs the way the Nuggets have. But, you saw if you watch Michael Malone's press conferences, which we've watched all of them, a very different guy after game 2 than he was after, a loss to a team earlier on. Like there's always a narrative he was pushing, or the media had this wrong or whatever. And after game 2, the quote that stuck with me is like, it's the freaking finals. Like no one should need to tell you to play defense with energy. No one should need to tell you need to make these shots. And like, it just sounded to me like a coach that was like, we hoped all season that we get to this point and not do this. And here we did it at home with a chance to go up 2-0, So I sense a little bit of concern from their coach on how they would be in another situation like that.
Yeah, I would say a really smart pro I talk to often. I mean, he's been around, no joke, he's probably been betting for over 50 years. He said this Heat team reminds him of that Chiefs team in football, where the Chiefs, if people don't remember this, the Chiefs were winning one-score games all season. They were in tight games all season. Their playoffs, the Jaguars, I think they won that game by 7. When they beat the Bengals, they won that game by 3. They got to the Super Bowl. They were down big at halftime. Nothing wavered. The Eagles team, who had never been in close games, that's who wavered. So I get where they're coming from, this whole Nuggets thing, where it's like the Nuggets, yes, they've been dominant, but have they been tested like this Heat team? Like this Heat team is so damn mentally strong. And Mike, you just talked about with Joker. I would love to hear your opinion on it. Have you ever seen a player in the NBA that's ever looked more hungover every game than Joker? I mean, have you ever seen a guy like this? I've been going through my head. Is there ever a guy that I remember that looks more like a YMCA player that's just so dominant in this league? I would love to hear your take on this.
I mean, you look sharper and fresher at 7:30 a.m. after an all-nighter than Joker looks, during MVP runs, bro. 100%. Yeah, like I think that's both, like when we talked about, some of we had Mero on our show, and he was talking about like no one in the barbershop gives a shit about Jokic. That's why it's like some people I think have a hard time engaging with him, and then some other people see him and are like, damn, he's like me, but infinitely better. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of his the double-edged sword of his appeal for sure.
I think it's kind of between him and Dirk for that award, and this probably turns into like the doughy white guy award right now, right? But yeah, Dirk used to be out there busting ass looking like he was just 18 Jaeger bombs in himself.
Long hair Dirk was special. Remember that long hair over his eyes and everything.
What's interesting is your analogy about the Chiefs is spot on, but also the way Michael Malone is talking to his team or about his team. I think Eric Spoelstra gives the best mid-game interviews because he's never clipped. He always gives the reporter time and respect. And he is also talking about the game when his team isn't doing well in a really honest way that isn't coach speak. It's mental speak. It's preparation speak. It's, our guys are really tight right now. They really want this right now. It's talking about the opportunities to play in a game 7, what it means to be in a game 7. That perspective, like, that's a nuanced thing, but he is so much better at it than every other coach. And when you talk about, like, you know, balls and assholes, like, he's got, like, he is never clenched and his balls are always big.
Big ball Spo. I will say, you know, I agree with all of that. And this was kind of an outlier. I did not like, you know, how he responded to Ramona Shelburne in that post game.
I didn't see that. I didn't watch it.
Well, you know, Ramona Shelburne, she prefaced her comment. She said, you know, I know I'm probably oversimplifying things here, but it looked like your strategy here was to make Jokic a scorer. And you know, Spo came back and said, oh, that's just such an untrained eye take or what have you. But that's basically what he did, right? Like,
it's exactly what he did. And that's why he was mad that she brought it up.
Right. It's exactly. And that's your best chance. That's your best chance against the Nuggets. Jokic is the best offensive player in the league. And when I say offensive player, I want to clarify, because people hear that and they default to best scorer. He's not the best scorer in the league. He is the best generator of points in the league. Best scorer, best passer combination in the league, right? He is the best offensive player in the league. So when your best chances against the Nuggets are, okay, we're going to get in Jokic's jersey. We're going to play him tough one-on-one. If he busts our ass one-on-one, that's fine, but we're going to stay home on the shooters. We're not going to give him any you know, easy dimes. And that's what they did, and that's how they won that game. So I didn't appreciate Spo, you know, snapping on Ramona in that way. And I think a big part of it was, okay, I'm really not going to get up here and talk strategy with the championship on the line. I think it was more that than anything. But yeah.
I think that's exactly it, because he also said the second half of his answer was just talking about how great Jokic is and how much respect they have for him. It was clearly a like, no, we have all the bulletin board material right now.
right.
Like, I'm not here to give them any bulletin board material.
He knows who he's up against. Mike Malone is like the most NBA Twitter ass coach in the league. He is someone who knows all the Twitter storylines and narratives and all that. And so, yeah, he for sure does not want to give them any bulletin board material.
So Ramona asked that question. Spo, you know, goes back at her, but we all agree that's what he was doing.
Absolutely.
And even, you know,
even Draymond Green said, you're making Jokic a scorer, right? Like, one of the greatest basketball minds in the world.
Draymond, your colleague at the Volume, he had Steve Kerr on, and they both agreed, you gotta cut off Jamal Murray. He's the head of the snake. And that's essentially what they're doing. So what Spo is doing is exactly what everyone thinks they should be doing. The question is, what does he do now?
Right.
When you guys look at this, what do you think he does?
I don't know. I like, the thing is, Jamal Murray, that Western Conference Finals he had was just absurd. 35 points per game, 50-40-90 splits. Like, he went crazy, right? So, you know, if you can, you know, cut his water off a little bit, that's your best shot. And, you know, like I said, you know, you live with Jokic busting your ass one-on-one and not, you know, being fucking Doctor Strange with the dimes out there. So,
yeah, I mean, I think I really like defensive basketball, and I've loved watching this Heat teams run. Like, to see a team switch like 2-3 to 1-2-1, like to watch them flip zone matchups around, and see how, you know, they're testing Jamal Murray's ability to process that in the moment, you know. But it feels very, I told John and Tyler this, like, it feels very like high school, college basketball. You just don't really see that kind of an approach in the NBA. So I would guess, I don't think they're going to simplify. I think that they will continue to try and get more complex to sort of win that race, right? Of like, no, we don't want you to settle in at all. And then at some point, something changes there, and maybe they start trying to double Jokic or something. You know, I mean, I don't know, but I would guess that until – one thing about Spo, he will not change his strategy until he has to change his strategy, right? Like, we always talk about playing Madden, right? Like, if you run the ball for 6 yards a game, you just do it 18 times in a row, right? You know, I don't think the math adds up there, but you know what I mean. So he will continue to run this type of a coverage until it backfires. And I think if you're going to Miami, where the crowd is going to be absolutely insane, and you're hoping basically just that their shooters don't find the touch, like, that's probably a decent bet to make as a coach right now.
Now, of all these undrafted players that this Miami Heat team is making this run with, all these 3-and-D guys, who do you think is the most carefree? Like, who's playing with house money right now out of all these guys that are undrafted in Miami? We'll start with you, Mike.
Gabe Vincent was at UC Santa Barbara, bro. I mean, with all due respect, like he was playing Big West basketball. If you've ever seen the gyms in the Big West, like he was at UC Riverside in a high school gym. He was at CSUN in a like 1,400 person gym. That dude is playing in the NBA Finals. He knows for sure that whatever happens over the next week, he has a very 9-figure type future ahead of him. So, I think he's thoroughly enjoying his life right now. And Spo, I think, is the right coach to reinforce that message to those dudes, because you don't see any tension or hesitation in them at all. Even after what happened in the Celtics series, they came in Game 7 and were like, yeah, we knew we were going to beat him in Game 7. You know what I mean? So he's the one to me, man. I haven't watched him play in college. It's just like insane to see what he's getting to do on the biggest stage right now.
Yeah, it's for sure Gabe Vincent to me too. And he's got, he's a free agent this summer, big payday on the way for him. It's crazy because there was a run in Game 2 when Gabe Vincent was on the bench, and there was like a 15-4 run or something that the Nuggets went on. And I was just there like, bro, you have to win the minutes without Gabe Vincent. And that is not a thought I would have ever thought that a championship team would have to put on their bulletin board. You know what I mean? A championship contending team, win the minutes without Gabe Vincent. I never thought that would be a legit bullet point for a championship aspiring team.
Right.
But that's where we are now. Also, Duncan Robinson, man, he had a chance to lock that series up. Game 6, missed 2 threes, versus Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. Went to Boston, balled out Game 7, was talking shit to the crowd, was talking shit to the Denver crowd Game 2. So, he's loosey-goosey too. That's just kind of Heat culture, man. It's just, keep firing, keep shooting, like we said, the loose boot, the loose booty hole team. So, that's kind of their thing.
All right, guys, listen, you've said it, but I want it on the record for official confirmation. The series is tied 1-1. Tyler, I'm starting with you. Who wins the series and in how many games?
Nuggets in Game 6, in 6 games, and I do not see the Nuggets winning 3 in a row. So I think they take Game 3, and I think that the Heat take Game 4, then 5 and 6 go to Denver.
Mike?
My original prediction was Nuggets in 5. I would move to Nuggets in 6 as well, and I think Tyler's got it exactly right. Except no. I think the Heat win Game 3, and then I think the Nuggets. Nuggets
run off 3 straight.
Yeah, because I do think that Spo has less arrows in the quiver because of the talent differential that you talked about, and I do think that Michael Malone is not spending however many hours a week watching The Town. So I do think that he will have an answer to that, and at some point there is an answer for the Nuggets that the Heat will not be able to respond to. So I will go with Nuggets in 6.
All right, there you have it. Nuggets in 6. Listen, we like the Nuggets in 6 too. It's the biggest bet I have, like I said. I know.
When did you get in on that?
I bet it before the series. I had Nuggets minus 1.5. So I essentially need them to win in 5 or 6 games.
Nuggets were like minus 400 before the series kicked off. Now they're down at like minus 280, is it? I think.
Yes, minus 280 at bet365.
Yeah.
By the way, if you still like the Nuggets, you're getting it cheaper than you did before the series started.
That's a good price right there.
Yeah. All right, Tyler, a.k.a. Dragonfly Jones, Mike Gardabasio from the Jenkins and Jones podcast. Thanks so much for coming on. Thanks to Matt Rybeltowski from Sports Handle. Broke a big story about Colts player being investigated for betting illicitly to my BFF, Simon Hunter. As a reminder, the Favorites podcast is proudly presented by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer. Bet $1 on any game and get $200 in bonus bets. Must be 21 or older. Offer is available in Colorado, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. I am Chad Millman, for producer extraordinaire Matt Mitchell, for Charlie DeSturco, again for Simon Hunter. This has been the Favorites podcast, part of the Action Network. Download us from Apple Podcasts, from Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Rate, review, subscribe, leave us 5 stars, say whatever you want. Feedback is a gift. Until next time, love you.